Good morning. It's time for an introduction to colored pencils. So let's get started. Open up your sketchbook to a nice clean page. I'm going to put my colored pencils and my color wheel over here for reference. I'm going to be starting with a little color wheel so that I can get used to my colored pencils, how they work individually, how they blend. I'm going to be doing my color wheel drawing using this cyan pencil. You could use one of your Blick Art pencils. If you do, you should use an HB or a B. That will make it not so smeary. So up at the top, we're going to put our color wheel here so that we can see it. We're going to work underneath it using our small circle template and the blue cyan. I'm going to go ahead and create a circle. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see. So now I'm going to take my pencil and mark the center of my circle, and then use my color wheel as a straight edge and draw a line going straight across. Close is close enough, so don't worry if it's a little bit off. Then I'm going to take this semicircle and divide it into 3 equal-ish parts. So again, thinking of this like a pie, and if I was going to make 3 pieces of pie for my 3 best friends, and I wanted to make sure that they were all treated equally, nobody had a bigger slice than somebody else. If I divide this top of the circle evenly into 3 parts, then I should be able to make lines from my little tick marks through the center of my pie, and it will make the pie into 6 equal parts. Close is close enough, so don't stress out if some of your pie pieces are a little bit bigger than others. This will give us 6 even parts, and even though our color wheel has more than 6 slices in it, it includes primary colors, primary yellow, primary blue, primary red, and secondary orange, violet, and green. And then it has tertiary colors, colors that fall in between and are made by blending a primary and a secondary color. So for instance, tertiary yellow-green is made by mixing primary yellow and secondary green. Our little color chart is so helpful. For this exercise, we're just focusing on the primary colors and the secondary colors. The primary colors are yellow, blue, and red. This yellow looks pretty close to primary yellow. Our red color pencil looks pretty close to the primary red. The blue, well, it's a little bit weird. We're going to have to check our colors and see which of these blues is closer. Right now, it looks like the darker blue is probably closer to the primary blue. We're going to start with the yellow up at the top. So we can go ahead and write yellow, and we're going to shade this whole pie section. Now, a couple tips about shading that I would like to talk to you about is that you don't want to press super duper hard. You want to shade slowly and super evenly. The yellow, you might even be having a hard time seeing easily because it's such a light color. But I'm doing overlapping lines. Some people do little ovals or circles in order to shade in super carefully. This isn't really something that you can rush and still do a good job on. So just Don't worry about having any place to go. Just enjoy the process and the time, and kind of think of it as a little bit of meditation. You want that whole pie shape to be even and smooth. I usually hold my hand back toward the back of my pencil instead of holding it up front. That helps me to remain loose and light. That helps you keep a light hand. Okay, now we're going to go to the red. Just like on our color wheel, the red is down and to the right, so we're going to make red down and to the right. There we go, red. And again, we are going to shade. I'm going to hold my pencil back at the back. And it's a great idea to shade all in one direction. Because I'm right-handed, I have this very natural tendency to shade in a diagonal that is top right to bottom left. You might experiment a little bit and see if you shade all in one direction, then you'll get a much lighter, more consistent, more carefully crafted outcome. You'll probably be happier with it. When it comes to shading along these lines, these edges of my pie shape, then I go super slow in order to be really careful and stay in my pie shape. Now, if you have a really nice, even, flat approach to your shading, and you feel like you want it to be darker, you can shade over it again, and you might go in the same direction. You might do like little circles instead of overlapping lines. And by building up multiple layers, your color pencils are going to be much easier to work with as you're building up layers on top of each other. If your layers are really smooth, you can even go a different direction. In this case, I moved my hand top right of my pie shape, and I'm blending in a direction that's opposite the first direction that I went to, and you can even go this other way. Sometimes it's really hard to be patient. I can't believe I just did that. Perfect timing. But your end results will look a lot better if you're patient. I'm gonna go ahead and erase that. Hit my undo button. It's good. All right, let's go to the blue. Okay, so that's pretty close to that blue. It's not quite cobalt, but it is pretty close. And in this case, my shading is going to, again, kind of follow the natural tendency to go diagonally. And if you find that it's inconsistent, like you have these big lines of blue, you don't want lines. Shading is all about being really patient, taking your time, and having overlapping lines that create this nice, beautiful base. If you want it to be darker, then on your next layer, you can come back and make it even darker. Okay, now we can even see with our color chart, if we blend yellow and blue, then we get what is called secondary green. We are going to go ahead and use our cyan color to divide this pie just like that. So we have a triangle on the inside and then half of the pie on the outside. Same thing over here and same thing down here. We're doing that so that we can use the secondary colors that are pre-mixed, and we can also blend our own colors and see how that turns out. So we're going to start by using the pre-mixed green, and that's going to be the triangle shape closest to the center. And again, we're just going to do really, hold your pencil toward the back so that you don't have too much pressure. Let it be really light to begin with and fill in that triangular shape. That is a beautiful, this is the light green, and it is a beautiful light green. Oh, yum, yum. Love that. Now we're going to see what kind of green we get from blending our primary yellow and our primary blue. We're going to start with the lightest color, and we're going to do overlapping blending to fill in that space. Medium pressure, we want to have room enough for our blue. Now we're going to switch over, and we're putting the blue on top of the yellow with really light pressure, really light pressure. You don't want to turn it blue, you want the blue on top to mix with the yellow underneath. And that gives us a really lovely green. Now you can go back and blend in more yellow and even more blue. Unlike oil pastels, it's not going to blend the same way. You really have to control your shading, the direction of your shading, in order for it to blend. But that's a really nice green. Let's go over here. So we have the primary yellow and the primary red, and then this is going to be our pre-mixed orange. Let's go ahead and add pre-mixed orange, moving our hands back, medium to light pressure. That is beautiful. And then let's go ahead and blend with our yellow first. Again, nice and slow. Make sure that your first layer of shading is super smooth, overlapping lines so that it's one continuous shade. And then overlapping with the red. And this is something you have to make those lines super close to each other. Super close. So that makes a nice orange. Now you might be wondering, why would I ever blend multiple colors to get an orange when all I have to do is use my pre-mixed orange? You definitely have the opportunity to use your pre-mixed orange, but I find that the blended colors versus the pre-mixed colors, they're just different. The blended color has this depth of color because you can see that it was made by layering. It becomes a more dynamic, richer color. The pre-mixed colors are beautiful. They are a bit flat. And so it just depends on the look that you're going for. Primary red and primary blue, and how that mixes to make purple, which I think is this one. Also known as violet. Okay, oopsie. Let's start with our pre-mixed violet. Again, just a beautiful color. If you do a really nice job of shading in one direction, Then you can shade over it again with a little bit more pressure. Now let's see what happens when we blend our primary red. Really slow at the corners and at the edges. There's no place to go, so take your time. Make sure that the red layer is really smooth before you start the blue on top of it. Oh, this is pretty nice. Purples are often super hard to blend, but I have to say this is a pretty good looking purple. It's not quite as pure as the pre-made purple, but it definitely does have this lovely quality to it. I can go back over the red. And I'm just building up layers of wax. Okay, that's great. Let's go ahead and label. So this is secondary violet. This is, oopsie, secondary green. This is secondary orange. And let's add primary red, and I think this is the blue. Primary blue and primary yellow. Awesome. Okay, so let's look at our color wheel. The chart tells us that complementary colors are colors that are across from one another on the color wheel. So across from yellow is violet, which means that these are complements, which means that if you blend these together, you should get a neutral gray. It's great for stormy skies. Let's go ahead and write mixing complements. And we're going to make 3 squares. And these are maybe about the width of my finger. And we're going to make 3 more. And then 3 more. And we're going to see what happens when we mix yellow with the complement violet. We're going to do a mixture of the primary red with its complement of green. And we're going to mix primary blue with its complement of orange. So let's see what happens. We have our yellow. We go ahead and shade that in. And we have our violet. I think this is my violet. Yes. Now let's see what happens when we mix them. Yellow and violet. So the violet is toning down the brightness of the yellow, do little circles. Little circles is good. You want to try to get that nice and flat. I find that the second layer of color, you kind of need to work it to get it to flatten out. Otherwise it looks very streaky. Maybe another layer of each. And it should give us, it definitely dulls down. So it is neutralizing the color. Let's see what happens when we mix our green and red. Remember light pressure for the red, for the green. Try to make it as flat and even as possible. Keep working it if you need to. And then we're going to try to layer the two, nice and even. Don't go to the red until the green is nice and even. Oh yeah, that definitely neutralizes it. So these are definitely becoming more browns, more neutral browns. And blue and orange. Blue and orange. So the nice thing about having this knowledge, it's nice to know that if your orange is just a little bit too bright, then you can add the tiniest bit of blue and it will make it not so strong in color, not so intense. So now we're going to do some blending of analogous colors. So down here, we're going to be blending analogous colors. Analogous colors, you can see on the color wheel chart, says that they are a group of 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Red is analogous to the colors that are to the right and to the left of red. These colors are analogous. Red is also analogous in the direction of the oranges. Yellow is analogous in the direction of the greens. Yellows is analogous in the direction of the oranges. Blue is analogous in the direction of the greens. Blue is analogous in the direction of the violets. So they're kind of seen as a family and as partners, and they relate to each other and they blend super, super well. So we are going to be making basically these boxes, but push them together. So we'll start with the yellow and go to the left. So we are going to blend yellow to green. We are going to blend blue to violet. And red to orange. So the idea is that the left side is all yellow, the right side is all green, but it's a nice even transition from one to the other. So we're going to take our yellow and we're going to start on this side with medium pressure, and then as we move to this side over here, we're going to lighten our pressure. Lighter, 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 so that The yellow side has pretty clear, pretty strong yellow, and then it is lighter, lighter, lighter until it comes almost, it should come 2/3 of the way over toward the green. Then our green, we're going to start on the green side, and we're going to shade from the green over 2/3 of the way over the yellow. So the area in the middle is overlapping. We want to have a really smooth transition. We can do that by controlling our pressure, having heavier pressure on the green, and then as it goes over and starts to blend and mix with the yellow, then it is lighter pressure, barely pressure, and it doesn't go all the way over. This yellow over here should be pure yellow on that side. If you can hear the siren, it's because we live right down the street from the fire department and the police department. So there's a little bit of activity tonight. I really hope nobody is seriously injured. All right, so we are shooting for a nice, even, smooth transition from yellow to green. And that means that we might have to play around. We might have to do multiple layers. We want the right side to be pure green, transitioning to, really, actually, this is yellow green in the middle, and then pure yellow on the left-hand side that's transitioning evenly and smoothly toward the green. So we don't want stripes and we don't want rainbows. We want this beautiful smooth transition. Now let's go to our blue and to our violet. So we're going to start with the blue. Whoopsie, that's violet. Start with the blue, heavier pressure on the left. And then as we move over, we're going to move over 2/3 of the way. The middle is going to be our blending. And there's less pressure, lighter, 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 barely touching the page. Goes all the way across. Not all the way, almost all the way. 2/3, 3/4 of the way, something like that. So really control that pressure so that you have stronger blue on the left and then much, much lighter coming over to the right. Same thing, but opposite with our violet. Right-hand side, more pressure, then less pressure as we go over to the left. Blending, blending, stacking those colors on top of each other, having a beautiful transition from purple to violet. Nice and smooth, nice and soft. Now we're going to go red to orange. All right, red. Relatively heavy pressure, but consistency in your the direction or diagonals of our shading, and then lighter, lighter, lighter as it goes over toward the orange, and it goes over about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way. More pressure toward the right, the left, and then lighter, lighter, lighter. Now we can come back with our orange. More pressure on the orange side, and then less, 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 less as we go over to the left. Beautiful ombre, no break, no stripes, just a beautiful, consistent color to color transition. Gorgeous. Blending analogous colors. Where analogous colors overlap, they make a tertiary color, and you notice that it doesn't dirty up your colors. Like this really neutralizes and dirties the colors. If you blend colors that are opposite complements, then you're going to get this kind of dirty, almost looks like baby poop, just saying. But blending analogous colors Because they are related to each other, they're side by side on the color wheel, then they just blend beautifully and easily. Keep that in mind. All right, let's do one more little study, and that is of blending monochromatic colors. This is among the easiest because mono means one and chroma means color. So monochromatic means one color. So it's really different shades of the same color. They blend beautifully and easily. So we're going to be blending light blue to dark blue. We are going to blend light green to dark green. And we're going to be blending pink to red, because pink is essentially a light red. Let's do the first one. Light blue to, oh my gosh, I can never tell which is, okay, I think this is the dark blue. I always start with my lightest color and medium pressure on the left hand side, even angled blending, 2/3, 3/4 of the way across. Come back and maybe heavy that up just a little bit with multiple layers. Lighten, lighten, lighten so it disappears into white. And we're going to come back with our dark blue. Give ourselves a bit of a stronger, heavier value on the right. And then overlapping, lighter pressure, lighter pressure, lighter pressure. Over to the left, 2/3 to 3/4 of the way across. So we're overlapping those colors. It should go from light to dark, beautifully transitioned. Okay, light green to dark green. Let's start with our light colors. And medium pressure over on the left, and then less pressure, less pressure, less pressure, controlling the direction. And then on the right, heavy pressure. Ooh, this is a bright green, I tell ya. I wonder if we should have used that green for the secondary. Kind of curious. That's interesting. Okay. By the way, blending, it always works better if your pencil or color pencil is not super sharp. It allows you to make thicker overlapping lines and makes your shading just a lot smoother. Okay, and pink to red. Start with the pink. More pressure on the left-hand side. Light, 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 less pressure over toward the right. And then start with the red. And pressure on the right. Less pressure on the left. Okay, fabulous. So we've blended monochromatic colors, analogous colors. We've experimented with complements to see how they neutralize and turn gray or light brown. And we have our color wheel. I am kind of curious to see what this green looks like. So if you want to add a little bit of the pre-mixed green on the very outside, and then compare to our color wheel. This is secondary green. Which do you think is closest? The pre-mixed dark secondary green or the pre-mixed light secondary green? Interesting. And up along the top, we have some space. I'm going to use my light cyan blue color, and I'm going to write colored pencils. I'm going to make it simple lettering, and then I'm going to make it a little bit special. So if I were really smart, I would give myself guidelines. Okay, I'm gonna come back and do it. It's not too late. It's never too late. Guidelines are always really helpful. All right. Oh, that's the same number of letters. Great, then I'm just gonna put my letters right underneath. For pencils, I'm gonna stack it right underneath colored. Oop, I didn't take into consideration the fact that the I is skinnier than all of the other letters. Okay, what do I want to do to make this cute?